Tonight, the province lays out its roadmap to end all pandemic restrictions.
Today is a milestone in our fight against COVID-19.
Starting Monday, all capacity limits will be lifted in most settings, including restaurants and gyms. The province hoping it will be the beginning of the end. We'll tell you its plan over the next 6 months. Plus,
what's the reason behind this? I mean, is it to educate? Is it to promote? Is it to do reconciliation?
as their hockey season begins, questions over why the Mississauga Blackhawks are still using the same offensive name and logo 3 years after the Ontario Human Rights Commission asked for them to be removed. And
for the first time in 2 years, Fan Expo is back in Toronto. I'm Farah Morali, and coming up, we will take you live to the floor and give you a front row seat to a Q&A with the one and only James T. Kirk. William Shatner.
Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. It's a roadmap back to normalcy. The government revealing today its plan to lift all COVID-19 measures by the end of March. Step 1 begins on Monday, when capacity limits at gyms, bars, and restaurants will be no more. Lorenda Redekop takes us through the steps.
Starting Monday, not only can restaurants, gyms, and bars go back to their pre-pandemic capacity limits, but a range of other non-essential businesses, including salons, museums, and boat tours, can choose to move to full capacity if they decide to add proof of vaccination.
They have to put signage in place if they're opting in.
Businesses can also decide to do that individually for specific events.
We will replicate our earlier success by slowly and incrementally lifting all remaining public health and workplace safety measures by March 2022.
The next big date, November 15th. Capacity limits will lift at high-risk settings, including nightclubs, wedding receptions with dancing, and strip clubs. Then, January 17th, capacity limits will lift at businesses that don't require a proof of vaccine. Plus, requirement to show a vaccine passport will lift for bars, restaurants, and gyms. On February 7th, the proof of vaccine requirement lifts in high-risk settings. Then, March 28th, it's the final step. The mask mandate is expected to end, along with any remaining public health measures. But the exact timing for each step will depend on the situation at the time.
We have always been cautious. I'm going to be super cautious. If we do not see the numbers in a stable place, we just aren't going to do it. It's as simple as that.
This comes as cases have been dropping. The number of people testing positive is low, and the rate of spread is down. The number of people in hospital and ICU with COVID-19 is lower than during previous waves. Plus, the majority of those who are there are unvaccinated.
It's the logical next step, and we have a roadmap now.
Today, the Ontario Science Table also put out its latest projections, finding cases should remain stable given the vaccination rate as long as some health measures remain.
The UK situation, Denmark, Finland, other places show you if you drop masks, if you drop vaccine certificates, you're in real trouble. And that's just the mistake we shouldn't make. And then we let the data speak.
When asked whether providing an end date for vaccine certificates could keep people from getting vaccinated, the Premier said this.
We can't forever, to the end of time, just ignore the people that aren't vaccinated. They're part of Ontario. I'll be up here preaching every single day to get vaccinated.
With this roadmap, restrictions will end just over 2 years after they started. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Business owners, especially those that run gyms, restaurants, and bars, were, of course, paying close attention to today's announcement. Since being allowed to reopen their doors this summer, they've only been operating at 50% capacity. But with limits now completely lifted, some still wonder if it's enough. Angelina King reports.
Bend, stretch, lift, and lower. 10 more.
Classes at Oxygen Yoga and Fitness in Liberty Village are full, often with a long wait list. The room has space for 32 people, but while operating at 50% capacity and ensuring everyone is 6 feet apart, only 15 can attend.
Our break even is around 12 people in a class.
So the news of lifting capacity limits is a huge relief for owner Colleen Brophy.
Excited. It's great news. It's only fair after what's been going on with the sports in Toronto.
Over at Hendrick's restaurant in the Eaton Center, the lunch rush isn't what it used to be. The owner says just because they can allow more diners come Monday doesn't mean they'll show up.
Office towers are operating at 10 to 15%. Theaters in this area are closed. Tourism is non-existent.
Today is also the official launch of the vaccine certificate QR codes, which you can just download to your phone. Then business owners scan it with a certain app, but you still have to bring a piece of ID.
If their health card photograph, for example, were to pop up with the QR code, it would definitely make things a lot easier and expedite things a lot quicker.
George Bazika says with all the hoops restaurants must jump through while operating on already tight margins, he's not relieved quite yet.
It's the perfect storm, and we're trying to weather through it, and only time will tell.
So how comfortable are customers with lifting capacity limits?
I don't think it's a good idea.
I don't have a problem with it.
Just going out from the store buying masks and hand sanitizers, right? So I really think it's a little too early.
Today, the province also announced personal care services like salons can do away with capacity limits if they choose to require proof of vaccination.
I suppose it's good that there are at least some alternatives to businesses put in place so that they can serve more customers.
Verified. Thank you.
Brophy says once limits are lifted, she's certain the clients will be there.
Our wait lists prove that.
So today's announcement is the piece she's been waiting for. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Despite the optimism that things may soon return to normal, Santa Claus will not be marching through the streets of Toronto for the second year in a row. Organizers announced today that the 117th original Santa Claus Parade will be a broadcast-only event this year. In a statement posted online, the president and CEO of the parade says he knows it's a disappointment for many, but the decision was made after careful consideration of many factors, including that a significant portion of the audience, children, remain unvaccinated. You can watch the Santa Claus Parade at home on December 4th. Charges have been laid in connection with a collision that left a 17-year-old pedestrian dead earlier this week. Nadia Mazumder was crossing Danforth at Birchmount near her high school on Tuesday when she was struck by a Dodge Caravan turning left at the intersection. A 40-year-old woman from Oshawa is now charged with careless driving causing death and not turning safely. Police said the woman remained at the scene of the crash. She is scheduled to appear in court on Thursday, December 9th. Nadia's funeral was held yesterday. Almost 3 years ago, the Ontario Human Rights Commission asked the city of Mississauga to remove all Indigenous imagery related to non-Indigenous teams from its sports facilities. While most sports teams in the province have made those changes, the Mississauga Blackhawks still have not. Talia Ricci has more as the GTHL season begins.
Team for a home opener.
It's the same logo still sported in the NHL. But as the Mississauga Blackhawks return to the ice, some are asking why the team continues to wear an Indigenous symbol.
What's the reason behind this? I mean, is it to educate? Is it to promote? Is it to do reconciliation? What's the reason? No, there has to be a legitimate reason around why you want to wear these. And that should be the first question you ask yourself and your team.
The city of Mississauga has a ban on Indigenous images in sports facilities related to non-Indigenous sports organizations. But uniforms, it says, are outside of its jurisdiction.
But if you have an image that's associated with Indigenous people, you should be talking to those Indigenous people and finding out about the culture, the heritage, respecting it, honoring it, and actually getting permission.
The team wouldn't comment or allow CBC News to film them playing. But we asked the Greater Toronto Hockey League about it, and they referred to a policy developed 5 years ago in collaboration with Indigenous community members.
And we established a policy that prohibited the use of specific names and logos unless the name was had approval from the Indigenous community that it was representing. There is an exclusion in our policy for the use of names and logos from NHL teams on the basis that those NHL teams have some type of working relationship with the Indigenous community in the city that they represent.
But Oakman says the organization wants to do the right thing.
The organization involved here is in the works of changing their name and logo in the near future, and are just developing a plan on how they will transition to the new name and logo they'll be using.
Indigenous Sport and Wellness Ontario hopes the change is imminent.
Why wouldn't a sports team want to have a logo that they can be proud of, that they can relate to? It's not theirs to own, it's appropriated.
And Chief Stacey Laforme notes the importance of a long-term commitment from everyone.
You know, just like racism doesn't go away because you take a symbol down. You need education, you need relationship building, you need understanding, and that takes time to work through.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, needed a warmer jacket today before stepping out.
Thanks, Kelda. Yeah, hard to avoid, at least if you got outside. Everything has changed. We're back towards seeing air that's more seasonal, temperatures more seasonal, in some cases even a little bit below. And we've got this upper trough pretty deep with the cold air. So from the north, that's shuttled down not just across the lower Great Lakes, but pushed in through the Ohio Valley as well. And the thing about this is this colder air is essentially here to stick around for a while. It's colder in comparison, but again, more seasonal for this time of year as we are in fall and pushing not just the middle, but towards the end of October. Daytime highs today, there were some decent numbers and double digits there, but a little cooler. Kitchener 9, Barrie at 7, St. Catharines 9 as well. And really through the overnight hours, we have pretty quiet conditions, partly cloudy skies around the GTA. Back into southwestern Ontario, slight chance for an isolated shower through that region. And then into tomorrow, kind of the same thing. You'll have a chance for some isolated showers. London, Sarnia back towards Windsor. We'll be seeing more variable skies towards Toronto, and into the afternoon, we do get into a chance of seeing a few isolated showers pushing into the GTA, so be aware of that. Into Sunday, it's kind of a flip-flop. I'll explain more about that coming up. For now, let's look at those overnight temperatures. 4 degrees. So tomorrow morning, it's going to take time. The sun's not up till around 7:40, 7:41 in there. It takes some time to warm up. And then 11 tomorrow afternoon with that slight chance of some showers.
Thanks so much, Colette. The federal government has quietly dropped its blanket advisory against all non-essential travel. It has switched back to the 4-level advisory system that was in place prior to the pandemic. But Canada's top doctor says that doesn't mean Canadians are being given the all clear.
I have to remind people that the pandemic is very much alive outside of Canada, and that many countries continue to require a pre-departure test, and it adds a layer of protection.
The 4 levels of advisory are exercise normal safety precautions, exercise a high degree of caution, avoid non-essential travel, and avoid all travel. The Public Health Agency of Canada says Canadians should be fully vaccinated before they travel and should follow public health measures at their destination. Well, if you're downtown this weekend, you may notice more than a few people in costumes. For the first time since 2019, Fan Expo is back at the Metro Convention Centre. There are a host of COVID-19 rules and procedures in place this time around, but it hasn't stopped some big names from stopping by, including one very famous captain who recently touched back down on Earth. Farah Morelli has more.
From Deadpool to Darth Vader, they're back, all of them.
How does it feel to be back? It's different. Like, it's so different because it's like before everything, you didn't expect to come back so soon. And now that I'm back with like all my anime friends, it's like I totally forgot the scene existed.
It almost doesn't feel real. This is the first Fan Expo in 2 years. Of course, last year's was canceled because of COVID, and things look a little different. Everyone, for one, has to be masked and vaccinated, and there's, of course, social distancing that's in place. So much of the joy of Fan Expo, getting up close and personal with your favorite characters. This year, plexiglass barriers are installed at autograph stands, and extra cleaning measures are in place. But it hasn't stopped the excitement. Mandatory masks mean some are just getting more creative.
It is a bit harder to kind of recognize characters because, you know, we're all wearing masks and stuff, and maybe like, you know, you can't see your friend as easily, but it's still like a lot of fun.
My dad's like, okay, we're going to go to Fan Expo, and I'm like, what would be good for that? So then he's like, you know, you should go as a Ghostbuster, and I'm like, okay.
And it's not just fans who are happy to be back, it's vendors too.
It's so nice to see everybody here together again. Obviously, it's got to be done in a really safe way, but you know, just seeing the excitement around the floor and seeing the costumes, it's fabulous.
How exciting was it to watch her go off in the space center?
It was amazing, just amazing. This family came to see the spaceman himself.
Gentlemen, beam me aboard.
William Shatner, who recently traveled where no 90-year-old has gone before.
And we were terrified because we had tickets for him to see in a couple of weeks, and we're hoping William Shatner don't explode.
Hello, fellow Canadians.
But Captain Kirk did make it back to Earth and didn't disappoint with tales of space travel.
So I'm looking down here, and the skin of the Earth, air, is 50 miles wide. There's 50 miles of air, starting with some density on Earth, and then it disappears about 50 miles above.
Fans lined up after in hopes of exchanging a few words about space with the good captain. And while it may look different, the message from fans was clear today. They're happy to be back.
Live long and prosper.
Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Premier Ford had strong words today for a controversial Eastern Ontario MPP, saying that he's lost his mind. As we told you yesterday, former PC MPP Randy Hillier has been using photos of people who recently died to spread COVID misinformation about vaccines.
It's disgusting, in my opinion. That's the reason Randy Hillier is not part of our party. That's the reason Randy Hillier will not win the next election if he decides to run. I always said before, the cheese slipped off the cracker with this guy. He's gone rogue.
Hillier shared images of people suggesting they died or were harmed by the COVID-19 vaccine. Yesterday, the sister of one of the people included in the post spoke out about it, clarifying that her late sister had a rare autoimmune disease. Ford's Progressive Conservatives are losing an MPP from Durham. Lindsay Park is leaving the caucus following an accusation that she had misrepresented her COVID-19 vaccination status. The Tories announced earlier this month that Park was being stripped of her role as parliamentary assistant to the Attorney General. The PC said they were under the impression that Park was going to get vaccinated. She told her side of the story today, saying in a statement that she actually hand-delivered a letter about her medical exemption to the Premier's office in August. She says her doctor provided a medical exemption because she had a severe allergic reaction to the flu vaccine. Park says given the lack of trust, she can no longer remain a PC. Military veterans and Afghan interpreters are getting help transitioning into the IT and cybersecurity sector. A program is hosting pop-up information sessions across the country. Today, Natalie Kalata visited one of them and brings us this story.
After 35 years in the military and multiple deployments around the world, Elena Vasquez is making a change.
It's a question of, I guess, pride and also honor.
The Army veteran is training for a new career in cybersecurity.
I think it would complement what I've done in my career as a military person.
She is one of Canada's veterans enrolled in the Coding for Veteran program, an online course through the University of Ottawa that trains Canadian veterans with the skills they need for a career in IT and cybersecurity.
They went from serving on the battlefield to now serving in cyberspace.
Today, the program is setting up an information booth at Downsview, part of a cross-country tour to try and attract new students.
When you actually look at the soft skills that the men and women of our military have, things like attention to detail, leadership, teamwork, it actually aligns perfectly with the soft skills of the best and the brightest in the tech industry.
Studies show more than 140,000 jobs in the IT sector will become available in the next 12 to 18 months, making it an area of employment ripe with opportunities.
We have a placement rate of 95% of people when they graduate from our program.
The program is also funding scholarships for up to 50 Afghan interpreters currently making their way to Canada.
These men and women that leave the forces, they have security clearances. And so those in the cybersecurity area that hire these individuals, that becomes an added bonus.
With 6 months left until she graduates, Elena Vasquez is hoping so.
To serve and protect. I mean, that seems like a cliche, the police thing, but yeah, just like to make sure everybody's safe. So I think that's one way to do it.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline. Cloudy tonight with some clear breaks overnight. Temperatures are dropping, currently only 7 degrees in the city. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, definitely a chill in the air tonight, and we should start getting used to it.
Thanks, Kelda. Yeah, so these changes that have come, the thing about it, the change with the temperatures sticking around now for quite some time as we look ahead into the long range. So we're essentially back to temperatures being where they should be. Overnight lows, yes. Last night, tonight, tomorrow night, then they start to creep up a little bit, the lows. Daytime highs, those are going to kind of stick towards seasonal. Some bright spots this weekend, some areas where we will have some sunshine, even if it's not the whole time, and a rainy pattern that we do get into next week. And it's almost a split decision on Sunday. I kind of want to take you through that. So this model is putting a lot of extra cloud in for tomorrow. I don't think it will be like that. I think there'll be times when it's more variable and we get some sunny breaks. Into the afternoon, there's that risk of seeing some showers. That is enhanced through the Niagara region. Also, you have a slight risk into southwestern Ontario. And then as we go into Sunday, this is when this next system south of us begins to push up. So late day into southwestern Ontario, some heavier rain possible, and also into the Niagara region. But likely for Toronto, it will just be some increase in cloudiness with sun earlier on Sunday. 3 to 5 for your lows tonight. Tomorrow, 11 to 13 with a few of those scattered showers. And the lows tonight, also some cool numbers showing up again where we ought to be. It's just the change from where we've been. And your highs tomorrow, they're 10 to 12 degrees. There's that increase in cloudiness Sunday, keeping in mind the Niagara region, you'll likely be wetter, and back into southwestern Ontario. It comes in here on Monday.
Thanks so much, Colette. And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. And we will leave you with pictures of the Dubai Eye, the world's biggest Ferris wheel, which just opened to the public. It's 250 meters tall and can take over 1,700 passengers in a single rotation. Have a great weekend, everyone.